There we go. Cool. So, talk to which aspects in particular do you want to focus on? The nurture, the around the call. Which would you want to tackle first?
There are two that I'm really keen to get up and running.
Cool.
The first one is when someone gives me their email and comes into my Facebook group because they're thinking they're getting
Yep.
a workout guide, free workout guide, which they
Yep.
have. So that one, just the one email, and
Yep.
it's all there, it gets sent, and then they go straight into my nurture
Cool.
after that. And I want both of those so I'm actually doing something with it.
Cool. Perfect. And then there, do you mean both of those together, or is there another aspect as well you want to go through?
That's the two that I had on my list
Cool.
for this
All right.
week as priority to get started.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to map out what I would suggest in this scenario based on where you're at, taking out of consideration what you have in place, and then we can mix both of them together. So, okay. Okay, this is what I would do. Okay, so in an ideal world, I would have a daily sequence, let's say a daily email that goes out. In an ideal world, we would say every day. Now, this would be how you structure these, we can come back to, and what this looks like, we can come back to. In an ideal world, we would do this, and I'm just going to label this way. So I'm just going to go number 3, let's say daily. So this would be a list, and once they're in this list, they're being allowed to get your daily, let's say your Seinfeld email. So they're very standalone in that sense. Okay. Now this would be our nurture sequence, number 2. And my suggestion here is quite similar to what we went through before, but I'm going to touch on it as if we've never spoke about this before. So just for this. So once someone comes into, obviously these are all suggestions only, but what I would suggest is then that we do something along the lines of this. A 5-part email sequence that is a soap opera sequence. In other words, each email leads on to the next. And if for whatever reason there is a no take on the call to action here, then these people will drop into the daily. Okay. Now we'll go through what those emails are in particular. Now, what I would suggest you do, tickly throat, water quickly before I die. There we go. So what I would suggest us do, and as always, things change in what we do, which is the beauty of being able to give you a perspective that changes over time, rather than a guru perspective that I learned many moons ago from another guru, is this is something that we have changed that I think is worth giving you a perspective on and see what your thoughts are. And there's 2 ways that we can do this, and it is up to you which of these that we choose. Cool. And this will be, as you said, the first email. So here I'm going to write number 1, and essentially I'm going to write cold, but I think it's fair to say they're not frozen cold. They're lukewarm, but we'll write cold just for this scenario, because if you were to get an email that was quite cold, you would put them through one of these 2 that we're going to do. So we're going to say A and B. So just 2 options, in my opinion, that we do here. Cool. We'll go through the specifics of the emails, but then what I would do is, oh, wrong one. This is going to follow up into here. Alrighty. So how this looks, in my opinion, is we'll go through the nurture in a second. So what's the difference between A and B? Okay. Now, I'm going to give you what I feel is going to give you the highest return on investment of your time and make you the most amount of money, and then we will scale it back if we need to. So what I would do personally is I would do a Gmail. I would do a Gmail email that is, you write the copy and you just remind me the 3 questions in your Facebook group are.
Are you looking to ditch diet culture and
Yeah.
get results in life? Would you like a free home workout guide?
Yeah.
And would you like a free call, but worded a lot better than that?
Cool. Right. So this Gmail email, actually from Gmail, would be sent by a VA, now in an ideal world, from Gmail. Now, yes, we could put this in an automation, but I'll give you a perspective of why I would do this differently. And this is for the highest return on investment of money and time. They would send an email templated with addressing, hey, such and such, now the SOP could be, let's just say you're in Edinburgh or whatever it may be. I would say, hey Zoe, how's it going? I just saw you, welcome to the Facebook group. I just thought that I would accept you and reach out and see how things are going. I see you're in Edinburgh, what a beautiful city, such and such and such. Then a paragraph. So I would break this into, say, roughly 3 segments. I would go personalized, copy, like the copy is whatever the copy that you say. So I would come along and you would have this copy that's standardized, which says whatever it is that you want to say and maybe attaches let's say a file. You could give them a link to go somewhere else, but if you're going to do this, I would maybe attach the file. You would attach the file or the copy. You would have a small sentence or 2 that's relevant to the questions that they've said. Hey, I saw that you're not looking to book a call right now. That's no problem. However, X. So you would just have, based on the answers that they choose, if they say they want to book a call or no, or obviously they're trying to like the diet culture thing goes without saying. If they don't want it free download, then there's only really, in my opinion, there's only 3 options of these emails. There's they don't want to download, they do, but they don't want to call, or they do and they do. Is that fair? Based on those questions, really. So if they don't want to download, I would send them a nice email that says, I know you don't want to download, but maybe in the future you may. Here it is. It's fair to say if they don't want to download, although it's possible, it's less likely they'll want a free call, although it happens, I'm sure. Then you would have, they do want to download, but they don't want to call. That's copy number 2. And then copy number 3 is they do and they do, and then you book them in there and then. Now you would then just create these 3 different copies that are relevant to the, let's say, the addressing the questions. And then you get the VA based on where they're from or something very basic on their profile. Wouldn't take long to send an email. Now, bearing in mind, how many people roughly are coming through that a day? 10, maybe 5, 10?
Yeah, 5,
right.
10.
So that won't take that long. For the sake of $5 an hour, that could easily be done in an hour, right? Considering we've got £1,500 coming in, this would be a very good touch. Now that's my first suggestion. Now my second suggestion here is that you do it via Zap. And what I mean by that is it's not going to be as valuable as addressing personally. But what you would do is you would have you would zap ActiveCampaign to Gmail. Now the question is, why would you do that rather than just have an email in ActiveCampaign? And that's because the deliverability is almost 100%. Right? Whereas on ActiveCampaign, it could be 50, and that's not based on your email necessarily, it's based on your Google score or your email provider score. The probability that this will go into the spam folder is it's less than 5%, which is insane. Now, this would be better than the alternative that most people would do. This would be better because it's more personalized. Now, it's up to you which of these that you would do. I would say that the option A would be significantly better. Option B is very clever though. And if you have hundreds of people a week coming in, or 200 or 300 or 1,000 people, this Zap is really intelligent. And all you would do is you write the copy and you change the name based on the Zap that comes in from, let's say, lead funnels, and say such and such and such, but the deliverability is really good, but it's not as personalized. Now, before we go on, I'm going to give you this in orange because this would be, let's say, bonus and maybe overkill, but I do see value in this. You can record a video that is attached to the email, potentially. That's one. So one is video. And the second one, which is, this would be, I'm not saying you shouldn't get this. What I'm saying is this is something that you could do that would be, if we're talking like the finer percentages, BombBomb, which is basically a automation, it's a software where if I send you an email on Gmail, I could have 10 different videos recorded and I select one and it gets attached, but not as a file. It gets attached almost like a Loom video, but embedded into the email, so that when you click it, it plays. It's not an attachment, it's actually built in. But the beauty there is you can check the open rate of every email sent on Gmail and how many people have viewed the video. So I don't know how much it is. Maybe it's like less than $100 a month. Now, I'm not saying you should do that, but if we down the line we want to really scrape some percentages, that's a very good option and something that always worth discussing. Cool. Now, what you would do then, in my opinion, I'm going to do this in blue, is we would then decide how long you would have between this email being sent out and them falling into a nurture sequence. And your nurture sequence, which we'll go through in a second, would be as such. My suggestion would be that this would be 5 emails over a 5-day period, and then they drip into the daily, and then they just will continue to be nurtured over time. Now, how quickly you put them into the nurture sequence may depend on whether you want them to reply in Gmail or not. There's an argument for you would leave it a few days and see if they reply. There's also an argument that, well, the first 2 or 3 emails here aren't really trying to get them to do much. It's just adding value. So even if they haven't replied or they do reply, there's no danger in putting them through a sequence, but that's very personalized. And it's a very difficult decision for me to make. It would be, I don't know the answer to that. We're testing that out as we go, trying to figure out depending on what you're doing. Just for hypothetical sense, I'll give a perspective with these 5 emails, because I know we've touched on this before, but just for this, while we're going through and finishing it off, the suggestion in this sense would be the giveaway that we're giving them is, just remind me.
The free home workout guide.
Cool. So email number 1 is giving them the free home workout guide and telling them a very a very generalized overview of who you are and welcoming them to your world. So, telling them a little bit about you. Hey, I know you don't really know much about me, but listen, this is who I am. This is what I do. I'm super excited to have you in my world. This is what I'm going to give you. Really excited for you to use it. However, I'm not here to sell you anything. I actually want to give you the best webinar, the best recording, the best video series, the best podcast for free. And I'm going to give that to you tomorrow to prove to you that I'm here to add value, and I want to show you that I'm the right person to help you at X, Y, and Z. Down below, you'll get your free workout guide. Tomorrow at X time, you will get the best webinar I've ever created for people who want to do X, whatever that massive compelling thing would be. That's the soap opera sequence. So you're leading them on to the next. So then here, you would give them let's say the video, which is always a better one when you've given a